Bonjour, écouteurs de l'Art Versations podcast. Hello, I'm your hostess, Bri, like the cheese, lover of all things arts related. This is a bonus episode of Season 4. I thought to bring back the podcast for some one-off episodes, so I won't be following a consistent schedule like I usually do in the regular season. Look at me, I sound like a sportscaster. Nope, this is not the place. This is Art Versations, a meditative conversation about the artistic process. As always, don't forget to follow on Spotify or other podcast platforms so you don't miss out on new episodes. My guest this time is dance artist and choreographer Zachary Bastille. We discuss his creative process behind his work, Estranged Poets, which will premiere at the Terra Firma Festival this Thursday, May 19th. Literally this Thursday. So I've included the ticket link in the description. Go get your tickets because I think they're almost sold out. Listener, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's dive into the world of Zachary Bastille. The miscommunication that comes with distance and separation.
Yes.
Talk about human, right?
You did your research.
Your girl did some fucking research because she's on her shit.
Yes.
No, but I Hi, Zach.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Great. I'm so excited to be here. It was kind of on my bucket list of undergrad studies to be on the show, of course. And I was like, one day I'll make something and be on the Art Versation podcast, and then I am making a thing.
I'm so baffled by that. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of long overdue that I've gotten to like sit down with you.
Yes.
We've known each other for 10 years almost now, I feel like.
Yes, 10 years. I think that's right. All the way back to Ottawa doing some improv jams.
Yes. And like competing together and doing DGB together, and just like I feel like it's been nice to see us both be in Toronto and, you know, still dancing.
I think you were, even at the time, you were such like a voice in the sorry, I was going to say Toronto, but the Ottawa dance community around like a studio. So I think it's so rewarding that we're still able, I mean, you're so humble, but like obviously like that we're still like talking, we're still like keeping in touch and keeping this dynamic going. I know. I feel like it needs to still continue, and like we need to support each other, coming from, you know, like around the same location, and like, you know, and then going on to be at TMU or Toronto Metropolitan University together. It's nice when we can really like see each other do things and then keep uplifting each other. Yeah, and we've both been witness to our journey, artistic journey as dancers and creators. I think seeing the growth in each other has just been kind of this intimate experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the little times that we've gotten to dance together, like at Elisa Pyre's piece at school, or like at TPAP. At the project together. When we did that duet over Zoom.
And we were supposed to meet in the park. But yeah, our paths just keep crossing.
I know. So. I love that. And I'm glad that you can give me some of your time after you've been literally busy every single day for the past 4 years.
Yes.
You just graduated.
Yes, I did, and it's been a breakup, I think. It's a mutual feeling in our class. And yet most of us are going to be in the city for the next month anyway, but just not having this opportunity to see each other every day or to be seeing each other in a different context is just something that I have to adapt with. And yeah.
Does it feel nice to like finally, you said it was a breakup, but do you feel like it's also just like a good closure of like, okay, I finished those 4 years. No more Zoom, no more, you know, up and down about are we going to have audience members, are we not? Like, I'm wondering like how that felt to like close the chapter.
Yes, I think for the past semester, I've been very looking forward to my future just because I know there are things I want to do and places I want to go, auditions I want to take, and it's just not possible when I'm also trying to like have a great, fulfilling, very involved university experience. So I was excited to finish, so then I can go into the world and like start making a name of my own.
Yes.
And then we had 2 shows in a row to finish off this semester. And this entire time I was like it was it was so great.
Busy.
And my friend was like, it's like we've just gotten a taste of it, a taste of like performing together, and we could go on for like so much longer. And part of me like agreed, like, yes, like I wish we had like at least 2 more shows together. And then another part of me is like, I think we all deserve to just like go out and show everyone like how much we have to offer.
Absolutely.
And then so we had Springworks and collections, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. And then finishing with collections, a show that was fully made by the students. It was the perfect touch to finish it, the perfect we're all in this together moment.
Breaks into High School Musical.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely was a High School Musical moment. And then just it was the perfect closure to 4 years of going through it. And I think it's kind of poetic in this way.
To finally like see all of you on stage, because I just watched you in collections on Sunday, and this time I could see you without your masks.
Yes.
And because I had seen Springworks, which was Angela Blumberg's piece, and there was something about the masks that kind of just drew me away from the show. I mean, obviously we have to keep things safe, and you know, it's an ongoing conversation about how we perform with our face. And it just, for me, like watching collections on Sunday and like seeing how you could like really just emote and use that human emotion coming through, I felt so much more like connected to you on stage. Yes. And I think your class has been through a lot. You've been through so much. I remember when the last day in person for me, when I was in 4th year, you were like in tech on choreo.
Yes.
And you were like just about to like go on stage. Literally, it was like the day after or something like that when we had to close down for COVID. And luckily, like, I had gotten a couple of chances to perform at RI, or at Toronto Metropolitan University, and seeing that your class couldn't, I just felt so bad. And then it was like 1.5 years of like, are we doing Zoom? Are we doing like a film that's live? I mean, I just can't imagine how many like ups and downs it's been for all of you. And then just getting to see you all perform and self-produce your show collections, that was just, I was so in admiration of all of you for just working through that.
Yeah, big shout out to the 4 producers who really came together and saved us all. But yeah, in collections, for context, it's only student choreography. And I think we were just all craving having our voice put on stage, being performed for people. I mean, I think it was like 22 out of 26 people created a piece for the festival, and we decided there wouldn't be auditions. Just like, if you want to do something, just do it, and we'll make it happen. And I think again, like, it's that thing of closure. It's like we're performing each other's work. It's like this great like send off into the professional world where it's like, this is our work, this is what we can do, this is what we can make with each other's tools, vision, etc. It's just like we are not like babysat. Is that the past tense?
Yeah.
We're not babysat through this show. It's us.
Yeah. Like, finally you get to have your work be seen. And I think that's an important part of the program, is having choreographic work. So, well, that was what it was called when I was in school, but but making sure that you're not just always the vessel for choreographers, that you actually get to like work together, someone as choreographer, and then also, you know, the dancers get to like be that vessel for your classmate, like working together, that collaboration where you learn maybe who you don't want to work with, or different styles of choreographing that maybe don't work for you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that, I guess, at least like I remember being in school, and like I just always loved being able to like work with my classmates, because that's where like the the mess and the you know
it's a different dynamic.
Exactly.
Having to teach and be in a leader position for your friends compared to strangers or people who might have more authority over.
Right. You get to learn all the ups and downs of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying earlier too that like it was truly up until opening that people were scrambling to put this show together, put collections together, and I know what you mean. Like I know what that's like. And you did it, and that's amazing.
We did it, and we got such amazing reception from everyone that came, or at least the people that I talked to, and like hearing whose piece was their favorite. It was like so different. People talking about like the diversity of the work that was put on stage. It was just like really rewarding to have. Because, I mean, of course we did it for ourselves, but it's live performing arts. You do it for an audience, and to have the reception after each number, people were clapping so hard and shouting, and it was like, it's just that like in the moment interaction with the audience of like, this is what we have to give of ourselves, and this is your response to it.
That immediate,
yes,
like,
it was missing.
Feedback.
It was missing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And your piece was Mr. Sartre and I, an introduction.
Yes.
And you had 16 dancers.
16, yeah.
Like such a great energy with so many dancers. Most of the show was small groups or like duets and solos. Ali Fahardi did your score.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I loved about your piece was that there were so many different sections to it. And the different sections all had gestures or movements that kind of complemented each other. And I feel like that's a lot to navigate. Like, what was that process of, like, making sure that everyone had space to show their movement?
Yes. So originally this was supposed to be this was supposed to be. I was hoping that it was going to be a 10-minute work.
Right, that's the introduction part.
Yes, that's why it's an introduction.
Gotcha.
Hinting to a sequel, maybe not.
Question mark.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so originally I had this vision. I knew I wanted a big cast, so I asked like these 16 people, and they all agreed, obviously. And then it became known that the 10-minute aspect of it was just not possible anymore. Which came with like having to make some choices. Originally it was supposed to be kind of in this like 4 sections that would create like an arc throughout the piece. Then I decided to cut it to 2 and then to 1, and then I really wanted to keep everyone, and I was like, how can I rightfully feature people and yet still have the vision known? I'm hoping that I did that. I mean, there were a lot of jokes in the cast because there are moments where, I mean, if you've seen it, or if you I might post it somewhere, but if you see it, like, sometimes, like, people are just, like, sitting and watching. Sometimes they're, like, standing and watching. Like, I think most people in the piece dance for, like, about, like, a minute 30 seconds out of the 5 minutes, just because I want to create, like, these pictures, images, and also, like, the vision of the piece. So breaking down to, like, 5 minutes, I had a lot of ideas. I had to cut some of them. I think I could have cut more. I could have spent more time finessing some ideas, exploring them, etc. I think, I'm not sure, but I think I've been thinking about it. I think it might be this kind of like young choreographer thing where there's like so many possibilities and you want to put all the ideas into this like 5-minute thing. I don't know if it's the fear that like there won't be any other opportunity to do it.
I know what you mean.
But then it's like, looking back, I'm like, I could have just like spent so much more time on this vertical line or like this duet section. But I think just like out of inexperience, you're kind of like, no, like don't want this to be boring. So then like you fit a lot in. And it's interesting to be going forward and think, how can I really dig deeper into each section? But I mean, it's good to hear like you appreciated all the different sections.
I saw them, yeah.
Yeah, and I think also I was in contact with Ali Farhadi, obviously, who created like this wonderful score because I wanted that was something I want to explore. And he created all these like different sections in the music, and the some of the choreo came before the music, but also I want to follow the structure of the music, find kind of this coherence. So then suddenly there's a change in the pace, the instruments being used. Maybe it's like, obviously you can have the choice to keep going with what you had, but maybe suddenly a new aspect needs to emerge. There needs to be a transition. There needs to be a new moment, a new event. Something of the sort. I think, but I'm really proud of how it turned out. I think the aspect of having multiple different events happening also gave the opportunity for more people to be rightfully showcased. Throughout the piece. And having a massive cast of 16 people offered so many possibilities in terms of choreography, which I wasn't used to. But I mean, the ending is the repeat of this one 6-count phrase that's repeated over and over again. And I was like, okay, like what if we face this direction now? What if only one person does it? What if like suddenly it becomes a canon? And I think that was like, putting this section together was so fun and interesting.
Cool.
And then I was just able to create different images, pictures that like would be really simplistic if it was 2 people on the stage. I mean, there was one moment where it's just people touching each other and just shifting the position of their hands, but having something like 8 couples on stage doing it at like different moments and fast and different like pace. Like suddenly it becomes something
cool,
right?
Cool.
And I think and just working with this big cast created a very nice contrast with this other project I'm working on where it's only 4 dancers.
Yes, the other project being Estranged Poets.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yeah.
I did a little illogical digging there.
Yeah.
No, just before we talk about that though, I feel like I completely saw all of what you just said. I mean, having to break down a 10-minute piece into 5 minutes is so difficult. That took a lot of, I'm sure, just reworking and trial and error. And I think what you finished with and presented to us definitely in the long run, I think it became something so much more layered than if it had been 10 minutes.
Maybe, yeah.
But I'd love to see the other version too.
Right. And it leaves it leaves a little bit of suspense at the end. At least I hope that's how it
that final image.
Yes.
With the fishbowl.
And I talked to the composer about it where I was like, the ending is like suspenseful. I think the task or the idea that I gave him was that like there's a decision that needs to be made, but we won't know what it is.
Okay.
Maybe until, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm gonna go further with it. I mean, I have the actual fishbowl back at my place. We're gonna see if I ever touch it again or if it just becomes a decoration in my room.
I love that it like framed your dancer's face. So it really reminded me of kind of like Mysterio from the Spider-Man. Was that your image, or was that just Like,
I mean, I guess it's like, it reminds me of someone in what's the name for that? But the people who go underwater and they have this like massive suit with the
like a scuba diving.
Yeah, with like
kind
the
of.
whole
Like
helmet
Sandy Cheeks
thing.
in SpongeBob.
Yes, exactly. And like
Cool.
kind of going underwater into the death, because a lot of this piece is about like going deep into a reflection state, a state of analyzing what's going on around us. That's why there's a lot of like people watching or sitting, and it's kind of this like dynamic of being observed versus performing for others.
Right.
And then, yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the fishbowl, and it's kind of like the fishbowl, kind of this representation of like, we are kind of like wandering maybe aimlessly sometimes through life, when we're questioning what's the meaning, what's the purpose, when we can't find it for ourselves. And then the true thing that's going to give meaning, maybe happiness or a sense of fulfillment, is just outside of that glass. But maybe we don't even know we're in a fishbowl. I mean, do fishes know that they're in a fishbowl? And I mean, can you crack that glass?
Yeah.
And I think that's why at the beginning, Morgan comes in with the fishbowl and puts it down. It's kind of like the setting of the piece. We are inside of it, and she removes the button-up shirt. I mean, it makes a lot more sense if you've seen it, but I'm trying to give context. I can attest
to this, yeah.
And then she takes out the button-up jacket, which is kind of like this, for me, it was this fake sense of purpose that we put on ourselves, or that we get attributed, and that's why everyone puts it on at the beginning of the piece and then throw it up at the end of the piece. But yet they still collapse under, because it's not something that just you get rid of. And then that's right, and then she holds the fishbowl in front of her face because she's still in it. The piece hasn't reached a resolution. Obviously there's been a change, there's been a narrative arc, a growth, but it's not something that you just finish. I mean, I'm still looking into what it all means.
Well, and it sounds a lot like this is coming from a philosophical Jean-Paul Sartre place, right?
Right.
So yes, the title is very like, this is about philosophy.
Yes.
But I also think you found ways to not make it so like you have to be philosophical about it.
Yes.
Like, as I'm watching it, I don't like take out my notebook and pen and like write down what does the meaning of life mean, like I think that's one of the most wonderful parts about movement and abstract work, is that we like dance artists get to explore such broad topics, like a fishbowl analogy, or like being entrapped in water, and what does that make us feel, rather than like we need to know the answers now.
Yes,
kind of thing.
It's personal. And I mean, I'm not a philosopher in any way. I took, I think, one class in one of my post-secondary studies on philosophy, and I don't think we covered Sartre. I just saw a YouTube video online kind of explaining it, like philosophy 101 or something like that. And then it like clicked. I was like, yes, this is what it's about. And the "and I" part of the title is, this is my understanding or our understanding. It's a like humble reaction to it. It's not, I'm not trying to like teach philosophy to anyone, because I don't have the tools, the understanding, etc. It's very like, it's humble. I'm not trying to. No. I'm not trying to like.
I don't think you like. I didn't get that from you, like a pretentious like. I know everything about self, and
I think a lot of the task of this work was like kind of this vulnerability of like being a fish. Like, you don't know that much about the universe. Like, I don't understand the universe. I'm not into physics and all that stuff. I'm learning, and the people on stage find themselves kind of confusing and like searching sometimes for something that exists or doesn't. And I mean, I'm really sorry. I get really excited talking about this piece, and I think it also speaks to the commitment of the dancers who like brought this vision to life and just trusted it. And they were really curious about it, and they were asking me like, okay, like what does it mean when I like come to hug her but I'm still dancing, or like why am I watching at the front? And it was like that's the kind of stuff that really excites me as someone who it kind of wants to explore how storytelling works in a contemporary ambiguous format of like more finding intentions and clear storyline. So that was a really exciting part when they were like asking me what it all means. Why am I doing gestures once again?
Yes. We love a gestural phrase.
Oh, it's kind of a running gag.
Yeah, I know. That's really cool. Yeah, if you do ever end up posting about it or posting like the 5-minute version or keep going with it, like please send it to me because I'd love to repost it. I wonder too, like, yeah, just working with so many dancers, I'm sure that became that your concept became more and more expansive as you went on.
Yes.
Just because you had all those people to collaborate with and talk through all of these philosophical concepts.
And I told them, I think the first or second rehearsal, I was like, I'm not exactly sure what this is about, and I don't want to impose a like clear narrative because I think I want us to find it together. I want to follow my impulse of like, okay, like where are we going next? Like what needs to happen next? And then sometimes their interpretation of like how they went into a section or how they did the movement affected like what was going on, because I think sometimes like their instincts was like right on to like
cool.
Right, this is what's happening. So it was really yeah, I didn't want to impose anything, so then this collaborative facet could still be used.
Amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, congrats to all of you for that show. Self-producing it's a journey. It's an experience. I'm dealing with it myself, and I was so thrilled to see it come to life for all of you.
You are producing a French show.
I am. Co-producing, yes.
Co-producing,
yeah.
Right. And I'm wondering, like, what do you feel are some of the challenges as, like, also someone who produces the first time, and I'm also, like, producing in a way. And I'm wondering if we, like, share, like, the same problems, concerns, but also, like, realization.
There's so many challenges. I'm finding that, like, because I've worked so much as a performer for other people or as a choreographer for other people, now I have all this control and I have to trust other people that I'm hiring. And I'm so grateful for that experience to try that. And I'm probably going to fail in many, many ways. And it's also like a journey of knowing what do I actually want to see on stage. You know, I've been in the audience, I've been on stage as the performer for so many years, and now I don't get to do that, but I get to allow others and bring people together in space. Like, I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to try to step back from performing in this show. I was going to be in the show originally. In 2020, we were going to, myself and Near and Far Projects, we were going to perform a version of this in the 2020 Fringe Festival. It didn't end up happening for many reasons. And then it didn't end up happening in 2021. Thankfully, Fringe was amazing and they honored our spot in the festival. So I spoke with Tavia Christina and Rachel Ficini, who run Near and Far Projects, and I said, who have been on the podcast before, I said to them both, I said, what can I do to help this show go on stage? Is it that I'm a performer, or is it that maybe I'm associate producing? So I jumped on and I said, I'm not going to be on stage. And yeah, I mean, your question about the challenges, I think right now I'm really just finding ways to, like I said, trust others, but also like do it safely. I think there's a lot of conversation around how we return to the stage in a safe way, not just like physically safe, but also like emotionally in the room. How can we like make it a warm and collaborative space for everyone to have a voice, breaking down that hierarchy of like choreographer, dancers, and that's been just a conversation. Like truly, I've been talking to my cast and I've been talking to my creative partners, and we've all just been making sure that every voice is heard. And that's been wonderful that, you know, we get the opportunity to even just be together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It's it needs to happen. Like, I know for sure that I need to produce work after being away from it for 2 years, but I also feel the need to bring people together and make it live. Because there's that question too about like, why live? Like, why can't it just be a film, right? I don't know. What are your thoughts on like making it now and why it needs to go up?
You mean live?
Yeah.
Live performance. I mean, I think there's just so much beauty about live. I think
I agree.
The adrenaline, for one thing, is just like when I film, I just don't get the same adrenaline of like everything is happening in the moment for this length of time, because sometimes you film something and it's like, okay, let's just do like this shot of you doing this movement.
Right.
And I mean, there are like so much value, obviously, and virtues to film. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I mean, I like every other artist, I made films during the pandemic, right? And I think I had a lot of fun doing it. Yeah. But it's just having to like figure it out on stage in the moment, being there in front of people, and if something goes wrong, and you just have this great of a connection with the people that you're dancing with, where you just know how each person is going to react and you adapt right in the moment. Yeah. It's just so beautiful, and it allows for a different kind of creativity. For example, when I go see a play, I'm really curious about like how they're going to transition from one scene to the next. How are we in an airport, but then suddenly you move a box and we're in a home? Or like, how does like lighting signify that two people are in a different place, but it's happening at the same time? I think there are just so many things to dig into and really like chew on about live. And also, like, as a viewer myself, I'm just like, I'm in a theater, I can't go on my phone, I can't like, I have a responsibility as a person watching to like give the attention to the audience, specifically if I'm like sitting right in front of them. So it just makes me more engaged. And I think just seeing it happen live is it's a privilege, I think, to see, because I mean, the choreographer creates the work in the rehearsal space, but then you get to the stage and the dancers are recreating it live for you, in front of you, every night, in the moment, right? Like they're rebuilding the structure from what they know. They're like finding the little intricacies in the music. They're like finding where their leg is for the support to do that big develope elasticon, right? It's always happening.
Totally.
And there's also this thing of like, it's temporary, because that's something as an insecure performer, but yes, same. As an insecure performer and as an insecure creator, film, it's there to exist. Suddenly you can't redo it again after the act.
That's so true.
While you're on stage and you get the opportunity to work on it the next night. You know what you did, you adjust in the moment.
It's constantly evolving.
I think there's kind of a leeway and understanding from the audience as like it's happening live, like my stamina is being put to the test, like the like life life still happens around you. You just like take a break to go and perform on stage, and what happens outside affects how you're on stage. So there's also this difference in how the work is being performed every time. I mean, you talked about, I don't know if it was earlier on the podcast or before, but you said when you were performing on Sunday, which was our closing for collections, it felt very emotional. And it was our last show together. We had been crying the entire day backstage. Like, choreographers beautiful. Crying, beautiful. Watching the dancers on stage crying, holding each other.
Supporting each other.
Yes, life was happening outside of the show, and it's affected how we did the work. Absolutely. And it was just like, I think it was just this much more beautiful. I mean, I haven't like seen it from the front of house, but I think this emotional component shone through in a way that wasn't like disruptive or messy.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
No, I don't think so. Well, and messy in like messy in a way that it reminds me to be a human in real life. Like
I was just going to say,
I'm not a virtual profile or like, you know, a robot. Like we are human, and I can remind myself to be a mess because I go and watch a show that has a genuine, authentic emotion behind it. Even if I'm seeing something funny, or if I'm seeing something that like completely transcends like a normal in-person interaction, I still like find truth in that as the audience member. It's so it's so special in that way.
And before Springworks was happening, the nights that we were performing this 4th-year show at TMU, I just felt like I was in my body, and I was like, so I did some, I mean, I'm not a great meditator, but I found, like, I heard about, like, these meditation exercises to be more present, and I just, like, found sometimes to just go, okay, can I feel the inside of my hand? Now can I feel the inside of my other hand? Can I, like, going through each body part, and then, like, opening my eyes, and, like, actually seeing the space for everything that it is, just so I would like be back into the space, not like thinking about the million things that are going on in our heads at every time. Yes. I think it's just this, it's a practice that like just started having in my life, and I don't do it every time obviously, but it's just something I needed, specifically as it was my first time performing live for so long. I just needed to be a human, realize that I'm a thing that's constantly changing, that's in the moment, and that is like constantly like shifting, like, you know, like our organs are always like moving if we even if we hold still. Constantly a heartbeat is going to like always movement, remind us of movement. My gosh, that's so beautiful. Just switching gears a little bit, your piece in the Terra Firma Festival, which is coming up in May on the 19th. When the podcast comes out, it'll be the week of Estranged Poets. You talked a little bit about this in the Instagram post, that it talks about dependence versus interdependence. And like the miscommunication that comes with distance and separation. Talk about human, right? You did your research.
Your girl did some fucking research, because she's on her shit. No, but I think just, you know, this kind of ties in what we're talking about. Like there is connection between us because we're human. And I'm wanting to hear more about how this piece explores that. Like where is is it physically that the dancers are disconnected, or tell me more about it.
That's a big question. I think
sorry.
Well, I mean, halfway through the process, I was recommended a book. I think it's called The 6 Habits of an Effective Person, or something like that.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a book about, it's like kind of a framework for how you live your life, and the way, your perspective on the world. And I think like inside the first chapter, there was mention of independence versus dependence versus interdependence.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like halfway through the creation process of Estranged Poets. And I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is like, it's making sense of the work, which I was like really, exactly, which I was really excited about. But yeah, this piece came, so when the Terra Firma was announced, I was recommended I apply for it. I wasn't sure what work I wanted to do, so then I went through a list of like ideas that I have. Sometimes it's just like inspiration, like lines from books or movie shows that like strike inspiration in me. And then I found it was this painter, Francine Simonet, whose work I had seen this summer, and I'm not sure what I'm not really great at like paintings and what era it is or what form of it, but it's definitely like in a more contemporary like 1960s upward aesthetic.
Okay.
And it was beautiful and simplistic and chaotic, and I read a little bit about her, and she's inspired by, well, she was, because she passed away, and she was inspired by female dancers and female models in the creation of work, which I was like, oh my god, like I'm a dancer, like this relates to me. I mean, I'm not female, but like still.
No, like bodies in space,
bodies,
right?
yes. And I was like, how can I recreate, obviously without like plagiarizing, but like how can I like use these lines into my choreographic practice? And that was like back in the summer. And then fast forward to December, I had just seen this light projection digital immersive exhibition in Montreal that was called Oasis, I think, light immersive.
Cool.
And it was like a stunning experience because you're like in a room and it's like 360 all around you, just like a projection. It's accompanied by this like beautiful music, and there was like this one artist work, Alex Leguiu, who created, it was like all these like particles, but like thousands, millions of them all around, shifting, creating shapes, kind of like waves or wind, changing color, and it was like juxtaposed beautifully with the music. It was changing dynamics, changing in pace and everything, and I was like, he like just transported me. Like I was not like in this room in Montreal. I was like,
you took a trip to another dimension.
I did, and it was like, wow. And these two works had, when I look at them, I was like, it's kind of like I'm in a storm, but I'm observing all the beauty of the chaos of it.
Wow.
And then when I wrote down the application, I was like thinking about like what connects both works, and I was like, this idea of storm, this idea of like these particles connecting and then disconnecting. One of the work by Francine Simonet was called Les Îles, so the islands. Okay. And you could clearly see like these like 4 or 5 islands in the painting, and then from there I like having a storyline. It's like very like, it's sometimes it's underneath, it's ambiguous, but I just need like the structure for the interaction between the dancers.
Same.
Or like the narrative, the arc, the
give me
pace.
Character or give me nothing. Like,
yes, exactly. I think it just like helps me as a creator find where we're going to go next.
Yes.
So then I arrived on the idea of these isles who are connected by this like vast ocean, but yet they'll never touch. They'll never like, I mean, I don't know, like obviously like I'm not a person who studies the movement of lands, but like they will always have this connection, but they can't actually go to each other. And then I was imagining these people, maybe people on this vast sea who like can or cannot connect and then disconnect. And basically a lot of research, development, talk with my amazing dramaturgs, Ali Carey and Stephen Howe. And I came to, yes, of course. And I came to these 4 characters, and basically they all struggle with separation in a way or another and find themselves imposed in a state of isolation, or they have isolated themselves to go find something.
Okay.
Who knows? And then for the rest of the piece, they try to find other people to connect with. And maybe they can, maybe they cannot. But it's, in the end, the piece is about the cross path that you get with people in your life, the people who like have significantly impacted your journey, but then they disappear after. Like I think of like all these people, choreographers, friends, etc., who have come maybe just like for a week in my life, where I just have like said one thing about me, and now suddenly I'm here in this room talking about the work, and how kind of it's kind of these like 2 marble balls that like knock each other, and then suddenly they're going in the opposite directions of the room,
like a magnet repelling.
Yes, exactly. Cool. So then it's this: where do we cross path? Where do we separate? Why do we separate? And then can you ever reach back to these people who have impacted your life? So, for example, sometimes you see someone on Facebook as a friend suggestion, and it's someone from a different lifetime almost. It's like sometimes someone who you haven't seen in a while, or just have like cut communication with you. And they look different, and you look different. And they're different, and you like don't even know what they're up to, and yet they were your best friend for like your formative years, right?
Yep.
And now suddenly I would probably avoid eye contact with them if I cross them on the street, or like they send a friend request, and I just can't get myself to accept it because it would open this Pandora box of whatever happened.
Wow. I imagine that a lot of people, a lot of audiences would kind of resonate with this feeling because of so much separation that we've had for the past, whatever years with this pandemic. I in my own experience, there are people who I haven't even seen since the pandemic yet still. And it's that feeling of recognizing that we've all changed.
Yes.
But, we can still be together again and change together. Yeah, I think that if you came to see this piece, like, you would resonate with a lot of those feelings.
And I hope that's also why I wanted a storyline, because I want people to be able to, like, relate to what's going on and, like, understand what is the relationship to each of the characters, because sometimes they meet throughout the piece, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. And it's also like, how do you reach back to these people who maybe just have like left you, like they've disappeared from your life, or like you have decided to cut bridge, but then you want to reconnect, and it's like, how do you even like start? And I mean, I think this difficulty in communication is symbolized in the piece by the use of postcards and kind of message in a bottle.
Okay.
Because they kind of live in this world where you don't have phones.
Yeah. What's that
it's kind of like it's kind of like this like it's kind of this like, it's a bit inspired by like journey or travel stories of Greek mythology, but it's not about Greek mythology. Don't quote that. But just of like this, like, how do you, like, this person who's gone like on a journey to go to war or whatever, you never know if they're gonna come back, and then you like send these letters into the ocean, and you never know if someone's gonna get them. You don't know how long. You don't know if they've moved on. Like, it's all these like questions of like not knowing what's going to happen, not having a confirmation of what's going to happen. And I also like research like historically what was the meaning of messages in bottles, and very often it was in a act of finality. It was like you're at the end of the rope. Like sometimes it was like people at war sending messages in bottles to their loved ones when they knew they were about to lose or die. Sometimes it was a call for help. Sometimes it was to hopefully that it would find their families. And sometimes sometimes the message took years to reach a destination. Some people have sent love letters and then have actually met and gotten married, which is absolutely insane. And I'm gonna just say it's like not ecologically friendly. So do not send messages in bottles. I read that like this man I think in Canada somewhere had sent like 9,000 or 900, something like that.
That's not
in bottles. No. And then like suddenly there was an article where he admitted that he wasn't going to do that anymore because he came into consciousness that like was really bad. But so many but so many people had actually reached back to him. He kind of became this like legend.
Okay, for sending bottles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not very ecologically friendly. However, I mean, it is a way to connect that's not virtual.
Yes.
And just to tie it back to this piece, I think that there's so much that we've been through, at least in my experience, about being isolated and missing that connection with others.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you're in town, like, get your tickets for the show.
Yes.
For this festival, too. Like, there's 5 other pieces in the program. At the theater center. Yes. What a great space to do it at.
It is. It's in this really nice black box space. It's wonderful. It's so intimate and great. And it's also, it's a good location. There's a lot of food around if you want to grab a bite before.
Get a little bitey, get a little drink, get a little drunk if you would like.
It's TTC accessible.
There you go. There's no way you can't go.
And I have to give so much credit to everyone who's involved or creating something for a show, because hearing about their ideas, it's absolutely crazy how creative these people are. And I think it's like lit fire under my ass to also like do my best work. Amazing. Because I'm like, I mean, you always want to, but then you hear people like, oh my god, like they're using like this, and like that's how it's really exciting to hear what everyone has to share with this festival.
It's going to be a very collaborative, very, again, self-produced, like, I think there's so many moments right now where we all just need to make art and make it together, and I think this is a great example of that. I'm so excited for all of you. I'm not going to be able to see it, but everyone who's listening is going to go get tickets. And just to mention your cast, what a stacked cast of amazing artists: Sierra Kalman, Catherine Ledvinka, Clara Iskro, and Melina Petri. Like, I think the 4 of them definitely have something to offer. And I'm so excited.
And they're such different movers. The way they approach movement was just like strikingly different, but in a very positive way. I think that helped me figure out what I want to do what I want to do with their characters, their narrative arc, and I think it just like it creates a contrast between the storylines. I mean, it's all very ambiguous, so like maybe we're not at the ballet right now, but just like they've been very generous also with their approach to the work, which I'm like so thankful. And I hope like the choreography does them justice, obviously.
I'm sure it will.
I think like and again, like about like the connections and separation, I think that's also what's exciting about seeing like 2 different movers like come together for a section and then suddenly they like separate and like go into something else. And I think it's also like it's also a hopeful piece because it touches on the richness of the relationships that you create throughout your life. No matter, even if they ended, they've got so much to offer. They're all like little treasures. I'm being so like cheesy, but
No, I mean, as you were talking about it too, I was like just subconsciously like going through all of my like childhood relationships that I don't necessarily have like accessibility to anymore. And so, like, even just you talking about it, I'm like, oh, I can totally resonate with this feeling. And I wonder, too, just movement relationships, like that's so clear with dance. Like, I think as dance artists, we get to, like, really show that separation through movement, but also just in that emotion, that ambiguity, like you said. So yeah, it sounds like a piece that it's only 20 minutes. You said, is that right?
Yeah, it's around 22 minutes.
Oh, so it's like a snack, like it's beautifully digestible.
I hope, like, I think it's a nice length, and I try to pace it accordingly. In this economy, no one has the attention span for anything over like 30 minutes. I know. That's great. I think that is a perfectly digestible snack. I definitely want to challenge myself, which was like, I think in retrospect, it was very ambitious to having absolutely like no work featured on stage to having a 20-minute something just put out there. And every time I talked to it about people, they were like, 20 minutes? And I was like, yeah, like that, like for me, that feels like a reasonable time. Because, I think it just gives enough to have a deep, hopefully, a deep story that also maybe leaves you wanting more, but it also is not like overbearing. Totally. And you've done all this research, like you said, with the painting, with the immersive show that you saw. Like, I think it is deep just in the fact that you've been diving already into it. I feel like you talked to me about this too in December. So like it's not a piece that you're just throwing together last minute. No. So therefore it's worth watching. And I'm going to plug it again. Go get your tickets. I will link it, the ticket link in the description. I think we have to finish up. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. Just before we go, though, please plug anything. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about you? Yes. Well, they can find me. Instagram is the best place to see what I'm up to and reach me. It's simply my name at Zachary Bastille. Amazing. Altogether, no commas, no anything, no emojis. I think, that's where I upload work, show little snippets of everything. Also, you can find my YouTube channel, Zachary Bastille, just my name again. This is where I post, the films I made during the pandemic, which I'm really excited about, are there. Yay. I'll post some highlights. I'm probably going to make a highlight of the piece for collections and put it there, and just see kind of the reels and just have a better idea, I think, of me as an artist outside of seeing actual performance, I guess. I will link all of that below as well, and go and check out everything that Zach's been working on, everything in all caps. You're such a busy creator, and I think I just, as I watch you, I think that brings out so much in your process, because you have all of these layers to add to it. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm proud of the both of us for just still kicking through this, It's one of these, us two, it's one of these like rich relationships that I talk about in the piece, I guess. Because truly, like from the improv jams up until here, I think you've given me so much as an artist that Likewise. I hope I can give back to. Oh my gosh, yes. So much. Even through a virtual screen when we're doing a duet, when we're slow dancing and we're not in the same spot. Yes. Oh, Lindsay Lobstewart, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all of your process. As I'm listening to more and more, I think there's so much sophistication in the way that you make work, and so I'm going to hype you up. I'm going to keep hyping you up. Thank you. That means a lot. Much love. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. Please help the podcast community continue to grow by clicking subscribe or follow on your podcast platform, and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtVersationsPod. You'll find photos of the guests you just heard, plus highlights and quotes from each episode. Let's keep the Artversation going. Send in a DM with your thoughts about art and any questions you might have for guests.
Special thank you goes out to Jen Marquez and Maxim Bartnowski for their contributions. And thank you, listener. Till next time.